in the pursuit of justice for humanity. In the never-ending efforts to pursue justice, as Mahatma Gandhi said, that we need to work towards removing every tear from every eye. And so long as that there are tears in eyes, we will continue that effort, and that is exactly why we have assembled here today. I want to congratulate and indeed thank our co-organizers, the World Constitution and Parliamentary Association, the International Philosophers of Peace, and of course, Mr. Professor Glenn Martin and Swami Agnivesh and all other distinguished speakers and participants who have come together to be part of this initiative. I also want to thank Dr. Vijaya Murthy, Director, Empowering Women, for being part of this initiative and also moderating the inaugural session. In some ways, for us at Untitled Global University, it's a very special occasion. This university was created nearly a decade ago by the extraordinary philanthropy of our founding benefactor, Mr. Naveen Jindal. Mr. Jindal does not need any introduction to this audience, but I can say that he's a far-sighted individual who had the vision to build a not-for-profit philanthropic initiative with a view to transform the landscape of higher education in India. He also had done many other things, and one of the things that he did was also a reflection of his larger commitment to nation building. For those of us who are in India will know that several decades ago, private individuals in India could not fly the national flag. He flew the national flag, and only on a couple of days in a year, the Independence Day and Republic Day, private individuals could actually fly the national flag. He resisted that law and essentially challenged that, and it took 10 long years, and the matter went all the way to the Supreme Court of India, in which the Supreme Court of India upheld the right to fly the national flag for private individuals. Since then, he and his wife set up the Flag Foundation of India and ended up putting over 50 flags across the country, including one of the largest flags in our campus. I mention that because it's also an effort to challenge the status quo, but also to seek change. Interestingly, that law was part of a colonial tradition in which the British government was quite comfortable to allow the use of the national flag for those people who are in the government. While when we got independence, the Indian government was also quite comfortable for government officials to hold the power, the same power, and did not thought it appropriate to change it until the Supreme Court of India intervened. I also want to recognize his contribution in the form of philanthropy and to build this university. And over the last 10 years, this university has grown from strength to strength, starting in a very modest manner with only 10 faculty members and 100 students and one school in 2009. Today we have nearly 5,000 students and over 400 faculty members and 8 different schools in law, business, international affairs, public policy, liberal arts, journalism, architecture, and banking and finance. Lastly, I want to say that there are several people who have inspired us and motivated us to do what we are doing. But it is important to recognize today that the one person who motivated me personally to have a stronger faith in the rule of law, but also to recognize that law is an instrument of social change and social engineering, is none other than Swami Agnivesh. For all of us who have studied law in India, Swami Agnivesh had captured a very important social and democratic movement in India in the form of the Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha and other such initiatives in which instruments of law and judicial processes were effectively used to uphold the right to constitutional remedies and to protect life and personal liberty, and very creative use of judicial power has resulted in certain important changes. And for those of us who studied law, we were inspired by the possibility of law to seek the change, and it was none other than Swami Agnivesh who led that change. I am grateful to him for partnering with us, for inspiring us, and for most importantly, being part of a development of a social and intellectual consciousness to address some of these issues that affect humanity at large. So I would like to take this opportunity to wish all the conference speakers and participants the very best. I will be mostly in and out. Running in university, I was mentioning to Swami Agnivesh, is not easy, with lots of regulatory challenges and constant efforts to comply with so many other rules and regulations. We are always kept in our toes, and that's what I'll be spending most of my time. But I will be thinking about the conference and wishing you the very best. And I sincerely hope that it creates opportunities and avenues for discussing some of the most fundamental issues that are affecting humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Your words of wisdom have been noted by us, and we'll certainly, follow it. Apart from that, we've always believed that walking the talk is most important, and you will be emulating your humility and your dynamism with which you have been, as a founder, vice chancellor, brought up this university, which is now not only world known but also recognized as one of the universities which offers the best of education. In Hindi, we say Sang ka rang, which means, for those of you who are from other countries, the color that we get is the kind of companionship association we keep. And WCPA has been very fortunate in having the right people inducted on their own, attracted to it like a magnet. And we are extremely privileged and honored to have association with such people. One of that is Swami Agnivesh. As Dr. Kumar himself has said, I don't think there will be a single person in this auditorium who would say that he or she has not been influenced and he has not touched the core of your heart with his work genuinely, without any kind of expectation, and inspired each one of us, whether we are a teenager or an elderly person. May I invite Swami Agnivesh to address us and deliver the keynote address.
May I start by reciting two couplets, mantras from Rig Veda, which are very much like the theme of this World Parliament and Earth Constitution. The mantras are in Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit. The meaning is that we, the people of the world, should come together, talk together collectively, take decisions collectively, and walk the talk collectively. Share the bounties of Mother Earth collectively in the spirit of sharing and caring. Now these are beautiful mantras, and at the beginning of the early part of our creation, these Vedic mantras were given to us as a mandate to act upon these directions and to create a beautiful, beautiful human society. Unfortunately, we have left this path, and that's why we are in this path, whatever we are operating today. So I recite these two mantras, and with that I will start my speech. Sangachatvam samvadadvam Sambho manamsi janata Devabhagam yatha purve sanjanana upasate samano mantra samiti samani samanam manasa chittmesham samanandram abhimantriyeva samanena bhavishajuhomi. In order to reinforce this particular mandate, the Vedic rishis of our ancient times, they had another such beautiful couplet which is inscribed on the walls of our central hall in Parliament. It says, Ayam Nija Paroveti Ganana Laguchetasam Udar Charita Namtu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is mine and this is thine. This way of thinking belongs to those who are small-hearted. Those who are large-hearted, for them the entire universe, the entire world is one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This has been our real sort of mandate, and to create that, now we have got this great project chapter of World Parliament Earth Constitution. I would like to congratulate Dr. Professor Glenn Martin for leading this crusade worldwide. Only last week he was in Philippines, and then he traveled back to USA to complete his whatever academic responsibilities he has. And then day before yesterday he flew from his university and then went to North Carolina, then over to Newark Airport and then to India. Yesterday night he arrived at about 10 o'clock at Delhi Airport, had some visa problems. He was given e-visa and it was not properly allowed. So in this way, after battling all of these difficulties, we together drove from Delhi here and we arrived 1:45 in the morning. And with hardly any sleep, he is again ready to lead the battle. And I'm really amazed by his energy and his being accompanied by no less a person than his wife, Phyllis, sitting there, and she has been a source of strength for Dr. Martin. Friends, it's really an honor for us to be associated with this great university, which is one of the finest, one of the cleanest, one of the fastest emerging university in our country, OP Jindal Global University. And we are really honored to have a young, dynamic, a very youthful, dynamic leader as Vice Chancellor of this university, Dr. Sri Rajkumar. And he has been really a source of inspiration for us because from the day one, when I was just discussing this project with him at his residence, he immediately jumped to the idea. He picked up the phone and called for great registrar Y.S.R. Murthy ji, here is something which we should be challenged and take it up as part of our whole university curriculum and exercise. And from that moment onward, there was no looking back. We had our great parliament here in these premises with all facilities, rooms, food, everything. And really, I feel so grateful to you, Mr. Murthy and Dr. Rajkumar. And every year, he has made it very clear, every year, 10th of December, the International Human Rights Day, will be the opening chapter for this Parliament and Earth Constitution here in this great university. So, please give him a round of applause. It's a great institution, as he was just now saying. founded and being run and inspired by Chancellor Naveen Jindal. He is my personal friend. He is my personal friend, and whatever great things he has been doing, this one is really one of the brightest stars this university of his all endeavors. Having said all of these, friends, I want to come to the topic today. The topic, as you have seen, is about creating an Earth Constitution. Now, when we look upon our own Indian Constitution, we feel inspired by the preamble of the Indian Constitution. So much so that many times I have told our people in India belonging to different religions, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, each one of them having their different sort of scriptures, sacred books, etc. That we may be as different religious people, we having different scriptures. But for all of us Indians, what is our real Dharma Shastra, real scripture? And that is Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution starts by these words, we the people of India. It doesn't say we the Hindus of India or Muslims or Christians of India. No, we the people of India. And that is very, very inspirational. And there, the preamble promises equality. It promises justice. And justice is not just abstract justice, social, economic, and political justice. And we talk about equal opportunities for all. And we talk about the great, great fraternity, values of fraternity, liberty, all of those great values. These are enshrined in the very preamble of Indian Constitution. 68 years ago, we adopted that Constitution. And along with this preamble, we have got a chapter on fundamental rights, which talk about equality. Article 14, 15, 16. Equal work, equal pay. Equality of human dignity, men, women, everybody. Article 21, which guarantees right to life with dignity. All Indian citizens have been guaranteed right to life with dignity, which includes their right to education, includes their right to clean air and many other things. So these articles are there, but at the same time we should be challenged that why is the Indian Constitution not being put into practice? Why, after 70 long years of India's independence, all our political leaders, all our social and economic leaders do not abide by the mandate of the Indian Constitution? Why still we have to suffer this indignity of mass poverty and inequality between the rich and the poor? Why? Now this is a big challenge, not just for us Indians, but worldwide we find the same situation. Today being the International Human Rights Day, the day on which the Human Rights Charter was declared, the declaration took place way back, I think, in 1948. 1948, the world adopted this Human Rights Declaration. And the first article starts up by saying, all human beings are born equal. Am I right? But the basic question is, do they stay equal? They are born equal. The Creator makes sure that the sun shines equally for all of them. The air we breathe is equal for all of them. The raindrops fall equally for all of us. So the message of the universe, the message of the creation is equality and justice, equity and justice. But it doesn't survive, it doesn't stay long. Immediately after birth, we realize that millions and billions of our children on this planet Earth are born unequal. In India, they are born either to high caste or to low caste. By the very birth, somebody is being called mooch, another is being called neech. How can we put up with this situation? The caste system, abominable caste system, this has to go. And the Constitution says, Indian Constitution, the caste system has no place. And yet caste system is dictating every walk of life, every step in our life. This is worse than apartheid. Worse than apartheid because there you can at least distinguish between the white and the black by the color of the skin. But here the same color of the skin. Everything the same, and yet so much of inhumanity, so much of indignity being skipped upon. Those people who are called Dalits or untouchables, and they are being subjected to this inhumanity every day, day in, day out. Now this is a big challenge. And from among these poor people, the Adivasis, the tribals, the indigenous people of this great country, we have 100 million of them. 100 million of indigenous people in India today. And those who have been inhabiting areas where it's mineral rich, forest rich, natural resource rich, and they are the poorest of the poor. They are poorest of the poor. They are being dispossessed day in, day out from their own place of living in the name of development, in the name of big projects. Big projects of developments are taking place by displacing these people who are aboriginal, who are indigenous people of this country. And when I went to talk about their fundamental constitutional right according to Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 of Indian Constitution, which are considered to be constitution within a constitution, I was invited by one of the most primitive tribes of this country, Pahadia tribe. Those who fought against the British, the very first, much before Gandhi was born or Subhash was born or Bhagat Singh was born. In 1761, these people fought against the British rulers, against their empire. And now they are being subjected to this type of dispossession, they are being disadvantaged, they are being driven out. So they invited me to Jharkhand, a place called Pakur. 150,000 of them were waiting to hear from me their constitutional rights. And as I stepped out of the hotel after holding a press conference on 17th of July, I was attacked brutally. There was a mob attack on me. They wanted to kill me. They wanted to maim me. They wanted to silence me. They would not allow me to go another 30 kilometers and participate in that great function. And why? At the behest of the ruling dispensation. The present day government does not want to empower those poorest of the poor, the Adivasis of this country. They don't want. And a sannyasi like me, I'm 80 years of age, and in this age, forget about respecting this color or this sannyasi or anything. These very forces who swear by Hindutva and all of that Hindu religion, they were accusing me of promoting beef. How could I? All my life I have been vegetarian, all of my life. And yet they accused me and they were chanting Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, and attacking me. A sannyasi being attacked, an Arya Samaj activist being attacked on 17th of July. An FIR was registered, but not a single person has been brought to justice till date. And another attack took place on 17th of August. I will not go on about my personal details, but what I want to say is that those activists, human rights activists today in this great country of Gandhi, they are being tortured, they are being maimed, they are being put in prison, they are being murdered. And we are here to celebrate Human Rights Day, International Human Rights Day, talk about World Parliament, and talk about Earth Constitution, where everybody is equal. Our preamble reads, conscious that humanity is one despite the existence of diverse nations, races, creeds, ideologies, and cultures, and that the principle of unity in diversity is the basis for a new age when war shall be outlawed and peace prevail, when the earth's total resources shall be equitably used for human welfare, and when basic human rights and responsibility shall be shared by all without discrimination. All without discrimination. Conscious of the inescapable reality that the greatest hope for the survival of life on earth is the establishment of a democratic world government. We citizens of the world, like Indian Constitution says, we the people of India. Our preamble says, we citizens of the world hereby resolve to establish a world federation to be governed in accordance with the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. Now these are great words, great, inspirational preamble which we have. And yet let us feel challenged. On this day, International Human Rights Day, we should find out in our surroundings why is there so much of disparity. In India, where we are standing now, we are sitting here in Sonipat in this great university. All around our country, we have got 500 million victims of modern day slavery. 500 million. Can you imagine? After 70 long years of our India's independence, they are in the unorganized sector of our labor. They are producing wealth for the country. Their contribution is no less than 45% of the GDP. This is recognized by the government, and yet they are not entitled to even 3 days of guarantee of work. Right to work is not there. They are not ensured of a basic minimum wage, which is fair wage, a living wage, as the directive principles of state policy, Article 43 has said. They are not being given that equality, which is promised in Article 14, 15, and 16 of Indian Constitution, which says equal work, equal pay. The organized sector workers are getting far much, and the unorganized sector workers, 500 million of them, are being denied equal remuneration, equal pay, equal salary, equal wage. And why? They are being denied minimum wage. And anybody who is being denied minimum wage, according to the Supreme Court judgment, is slavery. For a long 9 years, I was chairperson in the United Nations temporary forms of slavery, of which I was chairperson for 9 years, 3 terms. But I would hang my head in shame, because when all the information poured in our office, on our table, I found India being the largest country, the biggest country, having the largest number of modern day slaves. Now, how do you explain that? The land of the Rishis, the land of the Vedas, the land of the Upanishads, the land of all of the world's great religions. All of the great world religions are present in great strength in this country. India is the second largest Muslim country in the world, only after Indonesia. We are so proud of it. And Christianity arrived on our shores much before it went to Europe or US, in the year 52 itself. And the Parsis, when they were persecuted, they came and found asylum in this country, and they are most prospering community in this country, small minority. They preserve all their diversity and whatever, no problem. The Baha'is, the latest to come, they have built most beautiful temple in the world here in Delhi, in Calcutta, the Lotus Temple. So why I am saying this, all religions are there in strong presence. We have got all the great cultures of the world here in this great country. And yet the plight of the poorest of the poor. And Mahatma Gandhi, when Professor Rajkumar was quoting Gandhiji, I remembered that very powerful quotation, which he in a way bequeaths to our present day rulers. He said, whenever you are in doubt, whenever you are in confusion, not able to decide this policy or that policy or that policy, then for a moment, close the door of your office, sit alone in your office, close your own eyes and imagine the face of the poorest of the poor you have come across ever in your life, and ask yourself a simple question: how is your decision, your policy, your program going to empower the least among the last? The least among the last should be the yardstick of all development. And if your heart and mind tells you that yes, it is going to start from that last person, and then go move upwards, bottom upwards, then implement that with full fury. That was Gandhi's suggestion, talisman. But if your heart and mind tells you, yes, development will be there, but not start from the least among the last upward, but it will trickle down, will percolate in course of time, 5, 10, 50 long years later, something will trickle down to those who are toiling masses at the bottom level. Gandhi's firm advice was never trust that trickle down theory of development. Never. Because it will never trickle down to those poorest. Never. It will end up somewhere in the middle. And that's what exactly happened. Regimes have changed. Powerful parties have come and gone. And we still have our great Prime Minister today in our country and all their power in the center and 20 largest states of this country, everything there. And yet what we find, the trickle-down theory is dictating our economic development in the name of globalization, in the name of market forces and all that. I'm not for government-controlled socialism or whatever, it was breeding corruption, inefficiency and whatnot. But I want to ask myself, and let each one of us ask this question. Why has India not been able to remove that dehumanizing poverty even after 70 long years of India's independence? Why? And if we have not been able to wipe out those tears, Dr. Rajkumar said, wiping out tears from the face of the poorest of the poor, was Gandhi's mandate. Gandhi was not a politician of the usual, in the way we understand. He was not an economist from Oxford or from Harvard. But what he says resounded well with our Vedas and Upanishads and Buddha and Nanak and Kabir and everybody. The great Jesus and one of the Christian philosophers of Europe inspired Mahatma Gandhi about this doctrine of poorest of the poor. What was his name?
Ruskin.
Huh? Yes?
John Ruskin.
John, yeah.
John Ruskin.
Ruskin. Yeah, John Ruskin. John Ruskin was that who wrote this small piece called Unto This Last. And Gandhi read that small little book when he was traveling from Johannesburg to Durban in a train long ago. And then he dedicated his own life. Daridra Narayan, he called it. Daridra Narayan. Called him God of the poor. And therefore, friends, today, as we sit here, let us focus our attention to the world's poorest of the poor. Why they are being dispossessed. It's not that God wanted them to be born poor. No. God wanted them to be born equal to all other human beings. Swami Avdeshanandji sitting here in front of me, and he stands up for this equality. All human beings equal. All our great scholars sitting here. Professor Shah, who has travelled from such distance, and our great E.P. Menanji here, Arun Yogiji here. So, all of you friends, let's put our heads and hearts together and for next 2 days, deliberate on this very basic issue. Start with India, here and now. Why we are home to the largest number of modern day slaves, why we are home to the largest number of poorest of the poor in the world, why in the Human Development Index we are right at the bottom, 130 or 31 or 36. Why? Why in Happiness Index we are at the bottom? Why in gender inequality we are at the bottom? Corruption we are at the bottom. Bottom, no, top. You are right. Yes. In corruption we are top. See?
No, in the index we are bottom.
Yes. Yes. Now this is the situation. This is horrible. And yet we claim we are the fastest emerging economy in the world. 6th or the 5th or the 4th or even 3rd they are claiming. We are outsmarting Germany, France and many other European countries. But in what sense? So this is a big challenge and we should ask ourselves how to translate this preamble of the World Earth Constitution into reality. How can we bring about equity and justice to every doorstep, every poorest of the poor? If we do not address all our tasks with focus on that poorest of the poor, then we will lose our way. Whatever we want to do, deliberate, discuss, debate, etc., should have the face of that poorest of the poor person. Those toiling masses in the child labor at the age of 8, 9, 10, they are working for not 8 hours a day, they are working for 12 to 16 hours a day, every day. No holiday. This is the plight of 100 million children today in India. 100 million children are not in schools, they are out there working as child labor or child bonded labor today in India. Now this is the situation. Where do we go? And we can assemble here, talk for 2 days, 3 days, and then go away, meet next year, come back here on International Human Rights Day. It becomes a ritual. It becomes a ritual, empty ritual, having no purpose or no sense of any real commitment. So I'm here maybe for the last time, I don't know, but unless and until, sir, I'm not going to continue like this unless and until we each one of us join hands and heads together and do something meaningful to change the situation. A person like me, I'm not much interested in part of being a distinguished advisor or anything, high-fi or any designation. I want to be part of a struggle, human struggle, which will bring about change in our own lifetime. And when I was faced with this situation, a big Sardar Sarovar Dam was being built here in India and was going to displace hundreds and thousands and millions of our poor tribals and their home and hearth. I was protesting in front of the World Bank office on Lodi Road. And the then president of the World Bank, James Gulfun Sohan, came first time as World Bank president to preside over some meeting in his office. And I was holding a placard, go back. And but very interestingly, he looked from the window, people shouting his slogans against World Bank. And unlike our own ministers, who have immediately called the police to disperse us, this gentleman calls us inside to have tea with him. And then we are having tea, he asks us, why are you angry? Why are you upset with World Bank? And then we tell them that, look, you are the first one to grant loan for this Sardar Sarovar Dam. You will be responsible for all the displacement and all the misery which will be caused to our people. He listened and listened and listened and went back to his office in Washington DC and cancelled the loan. First time a World Bank president listening to the voices of the poor and cancelling that loan which he had sanctioned on the basis of which all others will also join in. Now that was first glimmer of hope. Then he invites me to his office in World Bank as a religious person. And 15, 16 of them sitting in one row in front of me, I alone on the front. And then he asks, Swami, why are you criticizing our policies, economic policies and globalization? And I told him, Mr. President, your globalization is nothing but glorification of greed as God. Oh, what is that you are saying? Greed as God? Yes, I said greed is being glorified. The corporate greed has taken over the world. He said, in what sense? I said, your globalization first and foremost means privatization of natural resources. Natural resources belong to us all, the poorest and the poor included. How can you privatize it? How can you privatize it for profit and profiteering? Tell me, in what sense? The water belongs to, river belongs to, all of these forests belong to, mineral wealth belong to some big corporates. Why not for everybody? And so what is your alternative? I said, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What does that mean? I said, the whole world a family. What is the difference? I said, yes, this is the big difference. Your model is a market model in which everything is commodified. Everything has a price tag. The rich and the powerful come and throw the price and buy it up. Make it their personal property. Corporate property. At a family, this does not happen. It is the youngest child, it is the weakest child who gets his or her share the first. As a matter of claim, unless and until that child is taken care of first and foremost, no family can grow. And this comes out of spontaneous love and compassion for the little child, something spiritual. No income output analysis there. Economic analysis. And this is how all families grow and survive, and They are giving us a message that the whole world should be treated like one family, where the poorest of the poor in the world should be given their rightful place in the world first to begin with. And then the rich people should take their share at the last. Like the breadwinner of the family takes care of the little child first and takes his or her share the last. That should be the model for the whole world. He was completely taken back. The World Bank president and all those great economic directors. I said, how can that happen? I said, just as you have in the name of globalization asked us, the poorer countries or developing countries, to bring down our tariff wall so that your goods can enter, your capital can enter into our market, make profit and go back. Similarly, we would like to ask you to bring down your immigration wall. Bring down your immigration wall. If goods and capital can travel freely in the world, why not human persons? Why not people from the toiling masses? They should also be able to go to US or Europe, make a living there and come back. I said, no, that's not possible. I said, this is going to be the next challenge for the whole of the world. At that time, I told you, nearly 18, 20 years ago, and that's happening today. People from Guatemala and Mexico, and they are going to break the wall, which Trump wants to build. So this is the reality. I told him about the BBC Channel 4 film, which I had just seen at that time, in which an African Gandhi was leading nearly 1 million people in tattered clothes. And they were leading and marching towards the Mediterranean Sea, and they wanted to cross over to Europe. And the Europeans were totally scared, panicking, and said, why are they coming this side? And the whole cloud of dust. They were so afraid, scary. And they sent one journalist, a lady goes and asks this African Gandhi, why are you marching towards that? And that African Gandhi said, we see beautiful things there. And we also want to share that. Good things of life. Said, no, you stay here. We'll give you all aid and everything. Said, no. We don't want your aid. We just want to be there and be part of it. Said, no, please don't go there. Said, no, we are suffering. We are starving. We have to go there. Why are you starving? Because we are poor. And then he says, why do you want to go there? Because you are rich. Then she asked, why are you poor? And then comes the final answer, because you are rich. We are poor because you are rich. And at that note, the film ends. So I narrated this story and told the president to the World Bank, one day this is going to be the situation. Willy-nilly, you will have to face this situation. The poor of the world will march. They will be drowning in boats. They will be dead before they reach your shores. But nevertheless, millions and billions will march. Nobody can stop it. The earth is our home. One earth constitution. Glenn Martin, you are going to create a situation where, this earth constitution is nothing, it's very, very subversive. Subversive in the sense, it's going to empower those poorest of the poor in the world. The earth is your home. Not just a planet. Your home, and you have every right to go from one place to the other place to the other place. And with that human dignity, with that human empowerment, we can really create an earth constitution promising equity and justice for all, each one individual, black or white, men or women, Dalit or Brahmin, everybody. That's a great challenge. And I think this Earth Constitution is going to be the Magna Carta for the future generations of our humanity. And we will realize one day this great dream of world parliament, of world government. And that dream has to come true. Let us strive for that. It looks something absurd or, some sort of very, very utopian dream. And we will never be able to see that. But just think of 1948, United Nations after Second World War, and talking about Human Rights Charter. All human beings born equal. You read that document, it's so inspiring. It's like the Vedic mantras. Vedic mantra that all of humanity is one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Much more inspiring than all of these other religious scriptures. I think our human rights charter should be made into a religious scripture for the whole of the world. All children should be taught. They should sing songs of human rights charter. That should be our idea. Our own directive principles of state policy in the constitution, if only they could be made turned into justiciable rights, then you can bring out radical changes in India. Let this great university be a champion of the directive principles of state policy. Why are they not being enforced? I think this is a great challenge, sir, and I will not take more of your time except that let us mean business. Let us mean business. A year ago, we thought that we will start a global communication center in Delhi, had a small piece of land or whatever, at 7 Jantar Mantar Road, we dedicated that for that global communication center. But there is nobody to sit there, to man it, to run it. And why? Even after 1 year, no, it's not functional. Can't we pool our resources, moral and material, and make that little office run on a day-to-day basis? To communicate to the world on social media and many other things on a daily basis to millions and millions of our people, the students in college, universities, everywhere, lawyers and other people. Why can't we do that? So from among you, I want people, qualified people, talented people to volunteer. Please do something to make this into this Earth Constitution and everything a reality. So this is the challenge. At every step we should individually, personally feel challenged and dedicate ourselves for undertaking this great task. And create communities all around us, with the poorest of the poor there. Don't talk about the great intellectuals or university professors, they're all there. But once you are able to mobilize those poorest of the poor in millions and millions, then all of these other people will come and take you seriously. Without the people there, out there on the land, I don't think we make much sense. So this is a great challenge, and with that, I would once again urge you, request you to come up with a concrete action plan. Concrete action plan. And for that, we should say, this week, this much. This month, this much. A roadmap for the next year. For the next year, on 10th of December 2019, we should be able to see ourselves and judge ourselves. So much we have achieved and so much we could not achieve for these reasons. And we find out the reasons and what the real solutions are. Unless we have a concrete action plan to translate this Earth Constitution into action, into reality, there is no go. Otherwise, we will be cheating ourselves, or just it will end up as another sort of a tourism conference. You know, people traveling from here and there and just doing nothing. So please don't take my words in a negative sense. I'm really crying in my heart and I'm feeling the pain that why, in spite of such noble documents and efforts, it started from 1958. This Earth Constitution is not one man's creation. It's the creation of so many great people, well-meaning people of this world. And that much exercise has been already undertaken. And like Indian Constitution, the Dharma Shastra for all Indians, it should be the Dharma Shastra for all the people of the world. Dharma Shastra means scripture. Like Bible or like Gita or like Quran. This should be our sacred scripture for our children, for the future generations. And with that end in view, let us hope that we bring about change, we bring about transformation, social, economic and political transformation in the whole world. And we say end to war. The war machine is the biggest enemy of humankind. In spite of so much of poverty, hunger, every day 21,000 children are dying of hunger today. Every day 21,000 children die. On the other side, we are spending $1,700,000,000,000 US dollars on armaments in the name of defense. $1,700 billion. If only you can cut 10% of that, you can meet each one of the goals, 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. All of these goals can be achieved if only you cut your defense expenditure by 10%. But who will tell Donald Trump? Who will tell Putin? Who will tell all these great leaders of the world that this is the most essential part of it? We, the people of the world, we, the citizens of the world, we should start calling ourselves world citizens instead of Indian citizens. Let's start calling, cannot get that recognition immediately, but we are all world citizens, earth citizens. Earth is our home. With that little aggressiveness, let us approach our task, and I'm sure one day we will realize our dream and we will create a new world order where everybody is really not just born equal, but stays equal on his or her lifetime. That should be our goal. Thank you so much. Namaste.
My goodness, I'm sure each one of you would agree, Swamiji, with your vastness of knowledge, insights that you have given us, with your experience and the kind of grip that you've been having for last so many decades over these issues. Not only are our heads absolutely heavy, but even our hearts and souls. And we are maybe not having tears in our eyes, but it is really our throats are choking as to how we have been a witness to these things and yet have been not doing anything about it. Especially in a land of spirituality. I mean, we seem to be the epitome of spiritual center for the entire world. Wherever I go, they say, yes, India, the land of gurus and rishis. Such a thing happening is really shameful. Probably, as you've been repeatedly, saying it, we've just been these, not only the constitution, but even our scriptures from Bhagavad Gita seem to be only on paper. We've not at all probably read it. Every home has a Bhagavad Gita or a Bible or a Quran. I don't know how many of us have read it. Even if we have read it, we've not imbibed it, which is in the form of developing a consciousness as to how could this disparity exist, happen, persist, continue, and I live a luxurious life. Swamiji, you have really, incredibly, amazingly awakened our senses and consciousness. Let it not be only momentary. We also have a terminology in Hindi for those of you who are delegates from abroad. Shamshan tak Vairaj. So let it not be this way. That is, we, those of you who haven't understood, we don't have this kind of detachment only when we are returning from the cemetery. Like, we know that he's gone or she's gone. Not that kind, but it will persist. I can only conclude that we should question ourselves from now. You've given us a homework now for the next year when we meet you all. Question ourselves as to what's going on around, what am I doing, how can I be contributing and making some kind of change in my own small way. And from that point of view, Swamiji, we have been doing. Each of us, Pushpa and Himlata are there as education counselors. We've been conducting sessions in educational institutions. I even authored 2 books and I'm going to have it published. small booklets for children, because my philosophy starts from the foundation, not at this age when I'm told that women are equal, all are equal. So I say, all right. But when it comes to actual, my son getting married or my daughter, I get, it should be that way, because it's difficult to imbibe it as I grow up, or for that matter, any human being. So these books on women, girl power and amicably living together are for 6 and 7-year-olds in picture book form, which will be published in Mumbai soon. I also, as a part of the association with NGOs, have started, reading some thing on. So I could only say that we all, since each of our religions says it's the karmic philosophy, and if we don't do anything, probably next life we would be the bandhuva, labor. Probably. I mean, if we just witness, because they say that what goes around comes around. So we should develop from today some kind of strategy in our own small ways as to what we could do at our level. The NGOs who are kidnapped, drugged and all, and they have children. So we are building the schools for them, developing the infrastructure, the teacher force, and another NGO where it is for street children, where children have been abandoned. Your suggestion of doing something has been well taken, and we'll definitely do something concrete from each of our side. We, pledge today, let's all say. And Swamiji, are you here listening? Dr. Kumar, Glenn, we are pledging today that we in our own small way will do something. Every month we'll keep our own strategy, what we're planning. And by 2019, when we meet the dignitaries of we would show in our own small way what we have been able to achieve in our own small pockets. Thank you very much. May I invite our very dear Amit Paul, the President of Delhi chapter and the Vice President of WCPA Global, to be on the dais, please. And I want to know whether Dr. Kumar wants to leave now, or would you be a part of the... okay.
Before I give my remarks, I request our Vice Chancellor, Mr. Rajkumar, to present a small memento to Dr. Glenn Martin, Swami Agnivesh. Please give a big round of applause. Distinguished guests on the dais, friends of the media, I wanted to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the Chancellor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, on behalf of all the members of the JHU academic community. We are so delighted to partner for the second time for hosting this conference. World Parliament, Earth Constitution, or such, let's say, utopian ideas, such outlandish ideas. In fact, somebody needs to have this impossible dream. When we have notions like universal brotherhood, when we have notions like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, world is one family, can Earth Constitution, can World Parliament be far behind? And Swami Agnivesh, in his
keynote address has flagged a number of important challenges. I, on behalf of the Center for Human Rights Studies at our university, want to pledge our support for advocating a national living minimum wage. In fact, Swamiji has painstakingly compiled documentation and moved the Supreme Court of India. And we all know the crusade he fought for bonded laborers in the country, and also at the international level on contemporary forms of slavery. And these are serious burning issues which must be addressed. And our students and our faculty members who are working with the Center for Human Rights Studies will take forward this crusade, and we will closely associate with Swami Agnivesh in making a further advocacy because these unorganized sector workers, their rights are constantly eroded and they are constantly threatened, and there's a lot that needs to be done. I'm really shocked at the insensitivity displayed by the courts in dismissing the petition, but we will not give up. We will continue this fight. We will advocate, we will think of more innovative strategies on how to carry forward this fight. Our center is working on extrajudicial execution in Manipur, and again, as a working documenting 1,500 odd cases and taking this matter to the Supreme Court of India. We are also working on manual scavengers who who have died in the process of cleaning sewers, and we are trying to painstakingly document each of those cases so that justice could be done. And these are many other issues where the human suffering, human rights are involved. And today is a very important day, International Human Rights Day. It's very important to recognize the promise of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, where 1948, the international community has talked about notions like that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, right in the very first article. And in the preamble to the UDHR, there is a very clear recognition that human rights, their protection and promotion are fundamental to freedom, justice and peace in the world. So very important to see the linkages between rights on the one hand, freedom, justice and peace in the world. And there's a lot that needs to be done. And today there are many challenges. And on this Human Rights Day, I want to extend our warm greetings. And I want to thank all of you for having traveled from different parts of the country and the world to our campus, for being part of this two-day conference. And we will continue to host this. And it's a standing commitment to the WCPA and other organizers. And during the tea break, of course, the friends from the media who have come will interact with Swamiji and Dr. Glenn Martin to know more about this conference. And with these words, I once again extend a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you.
Dr. Murthy, much before becoming Registrar of this great university, was Registrar of the National Human Rights Commission.
We can see the awards on the program.
Narasimha Murthy. I'm here. Oh, there you are. Perfect. Yeah.
Nothing could be succeeding without the relentless efforts of people who've been working around the clock. And in fact, the entire organizational efforts behind the scene for this conference on behalf of WCPA, apart from the Jindal University people, is Amit Paul, who has been doing, all the arrangements, organizing. I'm just there as the, on the dais. And Narasimha Murthy, who has been instrumental in contributing to make our WCPA very strong. WCP has decided to honor them with the awards. So may I invite Dr. Glenn Martin to talk a few words about their contributions to our organization, and also give away the awards with the hands of other bigger dignitaries.
I wonder if Mr. Murthy and Mr. Here, please. WCPA is a worldwide organization with membership in approximately 100 countries around the world. Many people have the idea that we need one world, we need one peaceful, we need to get rid of nuclear weapons and so on. But for many people it's an abstract idea, and they go about their individual lives and they really don't assimilate the vision of transformation that is fundamental to the Earth Constitution and our work. And it's the vision of transformation that is going to be the key thing in creating a decent world for future generations. And I think Swami Yajnavedich has said that to us this morning in his presentation. These gentlemen have internalized that vision and have devoted a great deal of work and great deal of passion to the development of WCPA, especially here in India. I've known Amit Paul for some 15 years. When we first met, he simply said, I want to work for this organization. I want to volunteer. And the first thing he did was open his home. And he said, anybody that's in Delhi having to do with this organization, they can stay in my home, and they're welcome to it. And from that time on, he has taken on more and more responsibility, more and more dedication, and he has become vice president of WCPA Global. He's president of the Delhi chapter, and he works tirelessly on behalf of this organization. And it's not, of course, the organization that matters, it's the transformation of our world system that matters. The elimination of poverty, the elimination of nuclear weapons, the protection of the global environment. And therefore, it gives me great honor and great pleasure to be able to give this small token of our appreciation to Mr. Amit Paul. I had the good fortune of meeting Murthy ji, Mr. Narasimha Murthy, through my good friend E.P. Menon in Bangalore. They were They were together in Bangalore every time I came there, and they were part of a tradition that goes right back, in my understanding of Gandhi's movement, right back to the very foundations of the Gandhian inspiration that comes out of India. As you know, Mr. E.P. Menon here started his career as a Gandhian activist by literally walking around the world protesting nuclear weapons. And every time I came to Bangalore, Mr. Murthy was there, and I got to know him, and he has more and more taken on the energy and the vision of a transformed world order that can only happen if we ratify an Earth Constitution and unite humanity to solve our most fundamental problems. So he has become very prominent in the Bangalore chapter, and the energy that's coming out of Bangalore and the vision, and he's helped, has special skills with legal things, and he is in the midst of helping WCPA become an official chapter here in India, recognized by the government of India, an official NGO organization. So I'm very proud and pleased to be able to honor him with this small token of our appreciation.
Dignitaries on the dais and my dear world citizens. Thank you, Dr. Glenn Martin, for this recognition. I say today, WCPA India has got this recognition. It is not Murthy who got it. And I just want to add one more word. Swamiji, in our tradition, Agni is the purifying factor. You know, in our Upanishad, Vaishwanara Agni is the most purifying factor, which we normally keep it in our house to form the rituals. But Agni is here. You know, when we know a man is or an animal is alive or not, we feel the Agni inside. If there is warmth, then he is alive. So obviously, you know, you would continue to be the Agni, you know, burning us. Keep us warm. And to keep the great, idea going, we look forward for your continued support and blessings in this. Thank you so much.
Thank Dr. Martin, Dr. Eugenia, Perez, Swami Agnivesh, and E.P. Menon and other members, Arunji, for conferring this prestigious WCPA Peace Award on the occasion of this Building the World Parliament Conference hosted by OP Zindal Global University. And I assure you, in 2019, WCPA will achieve great heights. We are having many collaborations with many NGOs and opening WPU University, World Parliament University there, and many chapters also. This is going to happen next year. And when we come back next year here, I think WCPA will be a big moment that time. And I assure you for that. Okay, thank you, sir.
We will break for tea now. Just a minute. Before that, I just want to say something which is, please come to the venue on time. Just breezing in at 10 o'clock and 10:30 and 10:45. We have come for a purpose. Amit ji has been telling me since long, only this much we have registered. I said, doesn't matter. We want quality participation. People who are going to really participate, involve and contribute. Someone already said it should be like a tourism conference. So people have been coming, just walking in, breathing in. Secondly, also now, let's have a 20-minute break for tea. Yeah. So it's about 10 to 11. Shall we be here at least by 11:15 sharp, please? Yeah. And yes, after that, Dr. Glenn Martin's, opening remarks, presentation will be there. Too small, another reminder, unfortunately, can we keep our mobiles in silent? Because 2 or 3 did ring. And we have a list of people who have paid. But some of us could not pay, so can we all pay for the registration fees, please? Yeah. Thank you very much. And we all meet here at 11:15 and we are going to come in the corner, the tea is being served, so we don't have to go anywhere else. Thank you very much.
My goodness.
Shall we have tea? How are
That's very yes. Yes. Take the exercise. करो एक नया नया पोजीशन सही बात है ये पीछे आना चाहिए बराबर ऐसा ये सेंटर का आना चाहिए पीछे आया yeah anytime party photo time sir कहाँ से ले रहे हैं
My photos are very good.
मैंने तो फोटो अच्छा है फोटो जेनिक है ना
मेरा में भी निकाल मैंने मैंने भी फोटो देने निकाल बराबर निकाल फूल डाल फूल आ रहा है बराबर है उसमें भी निकालिए उसमें भी जितना चाहिए उतना निकालिए कॉमन ईरानी है कॉमन ईरानी है चाय पिए ओके
Same begins there, but in my the cake looks like this. Same cake, but in your mobile it's different and mine is yours. This is mine.
एक क्लोजर में
Shall I you go ahead? I'll just click from this end.
क्लिक करो
आपका
मेरा यहाँ से
Yes.
ओके
Yeah.
है बैकग्राउंड
Superb.
मैं तो ओपन करने के साथ करता हूँ
No. Very first thing I see.
इस काम के ऑप्शंस
Yes. Oh.
हाँ चाय लेनी चाय पी
अच्छा you. You what is exactly your अच्छा
इसके साथ अंदर एक गाना गा रहे हो क्या नाम बजा रहे हो इसमें
देखा
मेरा भी बहुत इधर के साथ हो गया
So you're
all running yes keep doing that करते जाओ
ये बहुत अच्छी बात हुई। एक बात आप किसी के हैं सही बात, बिल्कुल अच्छी बात नहीं बताओ, वही अच्छी बात है। हम सारे बदनाम हो जाएंगे। सही बात है, हाँ सारे होंगे और क्या इवेंट वाले सारे बदनाम हो गए चक्कर में। हाँ ऐसा थोड़ी होता है, इवेंट वाले
इस तरफ मत लगवाना क्योंकि ये गाय की बात है।
बस
छोड़ दो उधर ऊपर से।
ये यहाँ तक तो है।
नहीं ऊपर नहीं आऊंगा मैं, स्टोर के पास ही तो है काम। वन कॉन्फ्रेंस में बिग बैंग है ना 11 बजे ना। हाँ 11 बजे वहाँ सेटअप करके तो आया था अभी थोड़ी देर पहले, आधा घंटा अनिता होगी वहाँ पे। तीन बजे आओगे या मैं आऊँगा देख लो, मैं वहाँ सेटअप करके आया यहाँ पे।
नहीं और क्या नहीं
Yeah, unless they say it's like.
Lu manja tuh manja politik atau itu ini. फिर मैं नहीं कुछ नहीं जाना
कोई जितना था उतना नहीं जाएगा उसको भी रोशन भेजा हुआ था उसको भेजा हुआ था
So originally bachelor's and master. Every Saturday, bachelor's on the first Saturday, master's. And now what is expected of me, I will be sometimes
with you. You are very.
Yeah, the chair, I don't know, he's,
Like if you give any, you already have no problem. So,
except
now you are.
you remember Phillips, right?
Oh, yes, we already met.
Yes. I'm not sure whether Jaya is going to be introducing speakers. Yeah, I think she is. But at the end, I would say, but the important thing is I need to. I gave it to.
Oh, you come here.
him. So I'm glad you came. I've heard you talk, repeatedly, in different years, and I really love what you say. Where are you going? But we have two sites. One was the 17th to the 19th. 14th were here. Yeah, but I think so far I have a sense of are there other options?
Well,
I would like that. Great. I had the privilege of in last spring speaking to the entire federal Supreme Court of Peru about the difference between your law yeah. So we'll be seeing the Taj Mahal. Where I don't think we are this. And back in the 25th. That would be great. I've never done it. I'd be happy. I've been to the tank, but I've never talked to anyone. Yeah. And
Shall we all start, please? Is Prashant sir there? Can we have one of you are from the university, Jindal University, please? So the four of you there behind. Are we listening? Are we listening? Oh, don't you? Oh, don't you? Dr. Glenn Martin? Yes. Are we listening? Oh, don't you? Please. Where is Samir Paulji? Where is Samirji? You want to sit there only in the balcony? You are not paid for the balcony seat. Okay, friends. Why Swamiji is not there? You should be here in this. There is a chair here. But then if you have to speak or something, okay, that will be better. Who took you there? And Phyllis is also not paid for the balcony seat. Okay. You know, friends, can we all, Acharya, can we all pay attention? I'm slightly and taking from what Swamiji has, said, that let us start. He didn't use the word hypocrites, but yes. So can we be more involved, please? I'm also wondering what can be the strategy, you all tell me, when the certificate for participation comes. Shall we have an attendance list now set, and then only those who are attending, because half of you have vanished? Yeah? Can Ashok please organize one sheet of paper and take the signatures of people who are present? Every session, can you be in charge, please? Every session, what time they enter?
Yeah, I will do that.
Because there should be a conference is not a tourism, just now it was told. What is the point? Let's have next year, Swamiji and Glenn, a smaller version of people who are really committed to the cause and not breezing in and breezing out. Are you all agreeing?
Yeah. Yes, 100%.
100%. I thought. It's because there should be some system. Otherwise, what he said, we all speak and do nothing. The next time we again come back just to attend because Jindal is
Giving food and residence and all. Very bad.
I didn't say.
Very bad. Excellent.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So some kind of, because how would his ideas be at all implemented? If we're just going to come have, the tea and walk in any time, walk out. So we all have decided. It's not one or two session people may not be there. Understandably, they have some other work. We do not give the certificate of participation. Some kind of, what do you say?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we have a very interesting presentation by Dr. Glenn Martin, the president of our entire WCPA, who's been instrumental in spearheading and steering it to such great heights. And though an American, I would equate him with some of our rishis and swamis, the kind of selfless service, the day in and day out work, the books that he has been writing, the dedicated, committed work that he has been, doing also is absolutely incredibly amazing. So, may I invite Dr. Ushoshi? Yes, Dr. Ushoshi Guha is there. Earlier you were not there. Yes, Dr. Ushoshi Guha is a lawyer by profession. She's an LLM and doing hundreds of things. A very, person who has been contributing in the field of education and in the field of law. She'll be chairing the session and Dr. Martin will be presenting. Over to Dr. Martin. For suggesting the chair role and the presenter's role, because each session is going to be half an hour. So sir, if you can sort of repeat it, because some of them were not
there. We first met Dr. Vijay Murthy in Mumbai just before the conference in Pune, and she volunteered to be the MC for that conference as well. And I think nothing can happen without her tremendous organizational capacities and her brilliance and so on. I really like to give her a round of applause to appreciate it. At one time I studied the Bhagavad Gita and saw that, in conjunction with my other studies that I had over my lifetime in Indian philosophy and thought, that there was a special role for karma yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. That is the role of action, and people have said that Mahatma Gandhi was an embodiment of karma yoga. And after I met Swami Agnovich 2 or 3 years ago, and began to find out about his life and so on, book, I've used it in my classes, and he links awakening, he links our sense of the oneness of the universe under God, with our service to humanity and the transformation of this world that we live in. And I think that's just wonderful, and I really appreciate that. I just wanted to make that point. I've been reading, as a philosopher, I've been reading a lot of works on contemporary climate science. Climate science is an emerging field of the last 20, 30 years. It came out of the realization, the tremendous realizations that only began to happen in a widespread way beginning in 1962 when a scientist called Rachel Carson published her book Silent Spring and launched the environmental movement. Since that time, scientists have collaborated, scientists have studied the environment, and something has emerged that was never there previously in the sciences, physics and chemistry and geology and so on. Something has emerged that is called climate science, in which they realize now that the whole world is one integrated system. The planet Earth is one integrated system, and you cannot understand any particular aspect of planet Earth, what's happening with the atmosphere, what's happening with the rocks, what's happening with the chemical composition of the oceans. You cannot understand any of that unless you understand how it all works together in a giant system. They say that our era is the era of the Holocene era, which is since the last ice age. The geologists have said we're in a period of warmer, stable climate on this planet called the Holocene era. And that's maybe the last 11 or 12,000 years. And this has allowed human beings to flourish on this planet. It's allowed great civilizations, going back to the Indus River civilization here in India, to flourish and that we have experienced on this planet. And now they know why, right? They know how the Earth system has worked for hundreds of millions of years. And what has happened in world system science is that they've understood now that the emergence of life on this planet, beginning 3.8 billion years ago with one-celled life, but then life blossomed with the evolution of photosynthetic plants, because photosynthesis produces oxygen, and the atmosphere of the planet changed to one that is full of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide and some other trace gases. And so what has happened is that we've had this heavily oxygenated atmosphere on this planet for millions of years now, which has allowed the evolutionary process to flourish and create higher, extremely complex creatures, billions and billions, trillions of cells, and all operating in this complex way that is true of our bodies as well. And so in this geological study of climate science, we come down to just the last blink in this history. You know, the Earth is 3.5 billion years old. This is fact. This is not, speculation anymore. And human beings have been around on this planet at least 2 million years, 2.8 million years. And before that, there was hominids, human-like characters. So you've got the hominids, the human beings. Originally, there were several species of us. 2.8 million years ago, several species of us, but the other species have gone extinct, and they have left us with one species, Homo sapiens. Every person on this planet is 99.9% genetically identical with every other person. Right? So all these so-called differences of skin color and size and shape and gender and the rest of it, are very, very small and insignificant. Right? Science. The Vedas say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we're one family. But science has proven it as well. Right? We're one species, one family. We're all the same. Same needs, same dynamics, inner dynamics, same thoughts, same characteristics of all sorts. All right, so there's something tremendous that has been studied. And what has happened out of this process, and the earth science process, scientists, they go right back to the beginning of the universe too, because the same is true of the universe. The universe is as Einstein showed beginning in 1905 with his theory of special relativity, the universe is one unit as well. It's not made up of different dimensions or different parts. All of these parts are interrelated with one another, integrated with one another, and it's a holistic, expanding reality coming from this mysterious singularity, this mysterious starting point, 13.8 billion years ago. And of course, 30 years after Einstein discovered the unity of the universe, the scientists then discovered the quantum dimension, quantum physics, and the mysterious absolute oneness beyond space and time that everything in the universe seems to be rooted in, the quantum dimension. And some thinkers, scientific thinkers, have associated that quantum dimension with the mind of God. So then, human beings have evolved out of this whole process, going all the way back, 13 billion years. In some sense, it looks like those 13 billion years had us, and there are scientific theories that actually affirm this idea, had us in mind, so to speak, in the very structure of the laws of the universe, had the creatures like us, creatures who are self-aware and standing upright. Completely different, emerging out of the process. And that's what's happened on planet Earth. We human beings have emerged out of this process, and only in a blink of the eye, only in the last 12,000 years, becoming conscious enough, self-conscious enough to understand the process, to understand ourselves, and understand something about human life, only in the last 2,500 years, since the famous axial period in human history when everything changed, everything became different. We began to have enough self-consciousness so that we could see ourselves as individuals living in a temporal continuum, moving from birth toward death, and being able to ask the question, what is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of human life? What is the meaning of the universe? That's only in a serious way, in a self-conscious way, it's only the last 2,500 years that we've been able to do this. Quite astonishing. So, we have the great world religions, all of which said something very similar, that we are one. Right? We are one. Right? In Christianity, God created the heavens and the earth, and on the sixth day, God created humans in God's image. Not this or that category of humans, but all humans in God's image. Right? The great religious texts that come after that axial period, 2,500 years ago, the great religious texts affirm this oneness of human beings. But now we're beginning to understand that science has also confirmed it. And science shows that we're all 99.9% genetically identical. And yet we live in a world that is a mess. It is a world that does not recognize that institutionally. Some people have said we are the creature that stands upright, right? So we have emerged because of self-consciousness. We have emerged from the process, right? All the animals, so to speak, are horizontal. The animals are down level to the earth, and they're submerged in nature. They don't have the self-awareness. But one creature, over the past just few thousand years, has slowly emerged to stand upright. Our feet rooted in the oneness of nature, the unconsciousness of nature. Our heads pointing to that self-consciousness, that standing upright. When we look at people, we look at their eyes, the source of intelligence, the source of self-awareness. And yet our heads point to the heavens. Right? They point beyond, they point to God, they point to the higher dimensions. And in yoga, as Guruji Arun Kamar points out, in yoga, the chakras follow that same pattern, don't they, to the higher levels. So, if we're the creature that stands upright, it is because we're self-aware. And because we're self-aware, many philosophers have said we participate in infinity. The very fact that I can realize that I am a finite creature, the very fact that I can see things about myself that are finite, mean that I can also transcend that and continually transcend that and participate in the infinite. That is, we are creatures that are capable of, that's what much religion is about. We're creatures who are capable of participating in the foundations of things, in the oneness of God, and so on. And we're ethical creatures, right? The very fact that we're self-conscious means that we can say, this is not right. We can say things should be different than they are. We can look at the hundreds of millions of people in bonded labor in India and say there's something wrong with that. It should not exist. And notice this, notice how it works, because as soon as we say it should not exist, we are transcending. We are participating in our upright position. We're saying it could be different and it should be different. And therefore, we're in a process of becoming utopians, right? Utopia simply means, literally, it means nowhere, right? We don't live in utopia. Utopia is nowhere on this planet. But utopia is there in every morally normal, self-conscious human being. Because every morally normal, self-conscious human being says, this is not right. This should not exist. We should not have corruption in government. We should not have half the world living in hunger and poverty. We should not be destroying our planetary environment. We should not have nuclear weapons anywhere on Earth, nor war. And yet these things exist. And I want to suggest to you, brothers and sisters, that a fundamental, that it's not due to a fallen human nature, right? There may be some elements in ourselves that are easily directed toward corruption, or easily subverted, or easily manipulated into following the crowd. But what has happened in the last few centuries, as we have become more and more aware, scientifically aware of our oneness and our problems on this planet, scientifically aware of the troubles of poverty and environmental destruction and weapons and so on, what has happened is that we as a species have not seriously questioned the institutions, the global institutions that dominate our world, that come from 4 or 5 centuries ago, before we even began to scientifically understand our oneness. Right? Only since 1962 has climate science exploded. And only since 1905, when Einstein published his theory of relativity, have we begun to understand the unity, the holism of the universe. And yet, our institutions, our global institutions, are outdated, fragmented. They come from an early paradigm, early modern scientific paradigm. The capitalist system, the global economic system, the system of globalized so-called free market began in the Renaissance in the 15th century and only came to real fullness during the Industrial Revolution, the end of the 18th century. So, what is that idea? That idea is that if everybody strives for, out of self-interest, for profit, for their own interest, somehow, Adam Smith says in The Wealth of Nations, somehow there'll be an invisible hand that creates the best situation for everybody. An invisible hand. Talk about superstition. Right? Talk about just nonsense. Right? Swami Agamich earlier mentioned the trickle-down theory that doesn't work. The idea that if you just keep capital going, keep capital growing, somehow it'll trickle down to the poor. Others call that the piss on them theory. Right? The rich piss on the poor, and the poor are supposed to appreciate that. Well, that's the dominant system. The World Bank and the IMF. Now, this conference is supposed to be about human rights and resistance to empire and world parliament. Right? But the center of the empire, the global empire, since the British Empire collapsed during the Second World War, right? British strength was destroyed. What took over then was the United States. And if you look at top secret documents that were written in the United States in the late 1940s, as they knew they were going to be winning that war and ending that war, they're talking about how are we going to be operating in the subsequent post-war years. And they're talking about, these documents explicitly say, publicly we have to speak of human rights. Publicly we have to speak of promoting democracy. Publicly we have to believe in it, make people believe in these ideals. But in reality, those documents say we will be operating on straight power concepts. Concepts to keep the U.S. power dominant in the world and to keep the wealth in the U.S. vis-a-vis the wealth of everybody else that is struggling for the same kind of wealth. Right? So we have a world, an imperial world. The World Bank is located where? The headquarters of the World Bank. Washington, D.C. Right? The International Monetary Fund is located where? The headquarters. Washington, D.C. The president of the World Bank is appointed by the American government. That's part of the agreement. All right, this is not an accident. And this is certainly not for the benefit of the people of Earth. Globalization is not for their benefit. It's for the benefit of the rich. Right? But these institutions, see the fragmentation of this system. Right? All these corporations striving for ever more money. No limits on the accumulation of private wealth for individuals. The president of Amazon, the founders of Amazon.com, now the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos. In the time that I've been talking with you, his wealth has increased by $2 billion. Just in this time, in this few minutes. It just, it just escalates. And there's something wrong, right? We don't know a human being has the right to more personal wealth than they could possibly use. Right? We, the people of Earth, this is our planet, our Earth. We have the right to share in the benefits of the wealth of the Earth. And we're not talking about taking away, somehow some sort of tyrannical government taking away from these rich people and saying, we got to distribute everything equally. But we're talking about a world of justice and concern and mutual concern. That is a holistic world that is not fragmented by global capitalism. Now, the critique that I just presented to you is fairly common, right? There's a lot of critical thinkers who have criticized the global economic system in that way. But what they often leave out is the second half of that critique that I want to also talk with you about. The second half is the system of sovereign nation states. Again, we know climate science says we're all one. We're one planet. We're interdependent. And what human beings do on this planet affects the global system, the global climate. And what we're doing now on the global scale is ruining that climate. We're making it so that future generations will not be able to live. They won't have the resources. They won't have the quality of air. They won't have the proper temperature. And this holism is violated, is denied by the system of sovereign nation states. 193 territories. This was founded, many scholars say this was founded at the Peace of Westphalia in 1648 in Germany. There was 30 years war in Germany, feudal empires, feudal lords and so on, struggling with one another. And finally, at the end of that war, they got together at the Peace of Westphalia. They said, okay, we're going to have to straighten this world out. We're going to make absolute boundaries. And you have the power within this boundary to rule over your government, and they have the power, and between you, there's no law. There's no law. And the great philosophers, Immanuel Kant, Thomas Hobbes, Baruch Spinoza, 17th century philosophers, Hegel in the 19th century, Kant in the 18th century, they all said that this system, which creates peace within the boundaries of these countries because they have the rule of law, it is a war system because there's no law between the countries, only power relationships. Fragmentation, right? In the United States, they want to build a wall between Israel and Palestine. They're building a wall. That's the fragmentation, that's in the direct denial of the reality of our human situation. So that is why we need all of us to think in terms of the Earth Constitution. Right? The Earth Constitution, it's a brilliant document, you should study it. It explicitly overcomes the fragmentation. Doesn't get rid of the nations, but the nations cannot be absolute militarized boundaries out for their own self-interest. They have to be part of a human reality of cooperation to deal with global issues and global problems and make this planet a decent place for everyone. Right? The Earth Constitution overcomes that greed of capitalism, and it nationalizes the oceans, for example, and the hydrocarbon resources of the earth. So you can't say any longer, oh, Saudi Arabia can pump all the oil it wants out of that desert because it happens to own that oil. What does it mean? Brazil can destroy the Amazon basin, the lungs of the earth, because Brazil owns the Amazon basin? Those resources belong to all of us, to the people of Earth, and that's what the Earth Constitution institutionalizes. Right? So it transforms, it is fundamentally on target with the new paradigm of holism that has been discovered by scientists. It is a holistic document, and unless we embrace holism, political, economic holism, we will not have a decent future on this planet. Right? So I would like all of you, I would like to request all of you to please think about this. Please make it a commitment to this idea and write to us. Write something to us and say, we all have NGOs, we all have our different passions for human rights or doing good things for people, but we need to link these together. If we want a future on this planet, we need to link all our NGOs, all our work together under the umbrella of the Earth Constitution and work to actualize that in everything we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Glenn Marty, for your intellectual speech and at the same time for your Friends, you may have questions too. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Is it okay? Thank you very much, Professor Glenn Martin, for your learned speech at the same time. Very practicable and practical suggestions for survival. As all of us agree that throughout the ages, the evolution of human being has proved that we require a common law. As science has bestowed with us best of the laws, theories, and the evolution of human being has proved that all human beings are equal. At the outset, Professor Martin, he tried to say about the human rights. He tried to talk about World Bank directly or indirectly. We have understood that as the head office of World Bank is in Washington, D.C., and so many other important offices and so many other important issues are being practically monitored by one single organization, that is, not to be said, United Nations. Along with all the best things United Nations is doing, we expect much more from it. We have to go a little ahead of United Nations. Now we need to think in terms of one world, one earth, and the new paradigm and the holistic document that has been prepared in the name of, the holistic document prepared as document of World Parliament, that has to be given a serious thought, and it is high time that it is accepted and it is brought into play very quickly. So, thank you very much, Professor Glenn Marty. We have noted your concern, and that is concern of all of us. And throughout the years, we are toiling hard and striving towards to achieve it and realize it. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
I thought probably even I'm seen, no? Because my head was. Due to shortage of time, I myself had a very, burning question from my side. I mean, I haven't said it's important, and I want to ask it before Swamiji leaves, but I won't, because before lunch we have 2 more sessions. So thank you, Dr. Ushoshi Guha, for so beautifully chairing. And may I invite Dr. Hemlata Kalesra now to chair the session. And EP Menon, Vice President, WCPA, Human Rights in India and globally, who will be presenting now.
Good morning till now. We have had a feast of inspiring ideas. But I got one word from what Swami Agnivesh said at the end of his talk. From there I want to start. He said, dream. So I wondered, what are we doing here? The answer I got myself is, we live in 4 worlds now, right now. The world of dream, the world of reality, the world of possibility, and the last, the world of feasibility. So I want to touch about these 4 aspects. Starting from our dream.
Dr. Menon, you don't have to stand on that platform. You are tall enough.
So, from the 4 angles, when I look at the future of humanity, what do I see? The dream all of us share now. I don't have to take time on that. But we have an instrument in our hand, which is a very powerful instrument. Right now, that instrument has been created by a group of people for the last 30 years in the name of Constitution for the Federation of Earth. We have the instrument here. Now, can we use the instrument in order to create, translate the dream that we collectively have today into a better world? That's the task. I look at like the next step. What is the reality I see in the world? The world is like this, scanning. The top 20% of the human beings on earth, top 20%, they have everything under command. 82% of the total wealth of the world, created wealth, natural wealth, oceans, everything is controlled, owned, enjoyed, decided by the 20% of people of the world. This structure, I look at, is the greatest enemy of the future of humanity.
Yes.
Now, can we in our dream, making use of the instrument we have, the constitution we have created, can we use it in a constructive, humanistic, futuristic manner to alter this structure? This is the challenge. From 20%, then the last 20%, how much they have? I have the statistics. The last 20% of humans on earth have only 2% of the totality of the wealth of the world. Now, as long as we permit this structure to exist, our dream will remain in dream forever. Now, let me see the reality from another angle. I heard voices from graveyard. Voices from graveyard. As a young person, I wanted to find out what was that place called Hiroshima, which attracted the mightiest empire on earth, challenge of the empire, to go and drop bomb there. So it took 3 years for me to find out. 3 years. I announced reliably. I walked. It took 3 years for me to walk from India all the way to Hiroshima, to listen to the voices from the graveyard of Hiroshima. That is a reality still existing in the world as a challenge for us. So can we listen to the voices of human beings from the graveyard? Next challenge. Now let me see the possibility. I'm a dreamer that way. 2008, two people stood up in the mightiest empire on earth called United States of America. Two people stood up and said, yes, we can. Very powerful message. Young man, whom that society never recognized as human being because his skin was black. Never in the history of America recognized a black skin. But he stood up and said, yes, we can, I can, and he made it possible in 2008. Another lady in that country, Hillary Clinton, yes, I can. First time a woman challenged the society power structure. So look at these ideas floating around. To me, that is a challenge yet to be fulfilled. We must face the challenges of the world. Now, the three says, dream, reality, possibility. Last point, feasibility. What is feasible in front of us today? I would like to see one thing, a possible action. All philosophies in the world will never succeed unless philosophy is transformed into action. I believe in that. Imagine last century, 20th century. Two words, 20th century humanity. Two words created about speak truth to power. That was a message of 20th century to human beings, to us, by our forefathers, our earlier leaders. And when people in mass, millions and millions all over the world, stood up and started speaking truth to power, power structure collapsed. And 47, we know India, the greatest moment in our history, 47. We succeeded because of the power of the two words, speak truth to power. And we achieved certain things. But after achieving what we have done, that we do. Already in the morning, other people have said. We have failed in it, if I put it that way. In 70 years, we have failed in providing social equality and economic justice to the poor people of India. This is the reality. So in this reality, what is the feasibility I want to look at as a challenge, as a dream? Today's world is full of many hotspots, so many contradictory problems. Glenn said already something, Palestine issue. And then the leader of the mightiest empire of the world today is building a wall in Mexico. These are all hotspots. And we in India, 70 years, we Indians, let's just say it, we have not lived as human beings in this country. Because we still live in this mode. We are only Hindus and Muslims. We have not gone out of that. Let's say we have been in excel, still living after 70 years. We and them, they and us. When are we going to change? In our mindset. That is a challenge. So as a matter of action, I have a proposal. I'll stop, I've only 10 minutes left. Can we identify the dreamers sitting in this hall? Any one issue, anywhere in the world, because we are dealing with human beings, not in one culture or one country. Let's identify one hotspot or one issue. It can be an issue, it can be a hotspot. Maybe Jerusalem, maybe Kashmir, maybe Yemen, maybe North Korea, South Korea, burning issue. Let's add it was one hotspot or one issue, anyone, which we have to do a lot of research on that. And give a challenge to the world. And when we give a challenge to the world, who do we address? There is one institution in the world created by human beings, created from the ashes of their own foolishness, called United Nations. It exists in New York. But we can try. Have they done their duty? No. So, my point will be, I would personally prefer an issue that I said 10 minutes ago. Nuclear weapons. Whom does this weapon serve? Do Indians get bread and butter from keeping a nuclear bomb in our country? Do Pakistanis get it? Do Americans get it? Do Koreans get it? No. So the reality is that is a prestige point. So can we say, look, we WCPA, new World Parliament which we have created already. We are the members of the new World Parliament. We don't recognize Washington or New Delhi or Moscow anymore. It is our free will. We don't recognize it. In 2020, let's put it that. I put a time. September 2020, can we think? We have 2 years to go. The so-called greatest democracy of the world, greatest democracy of the world is going to have a new government after 6 months. In June, in New Delhi, we will have a new government. And 2020 January, you will also have a new government there. So let us challenge the greatest democracy of the world and the largest democracy of the world together. And put United Nations as a scapegoat. We'll say United Nations today is scapegoat. So, can we identify few people, individuals, convince that in 2020 September, when United Nations is going to meet in the General Assembly in New York, the world will have a lot of changes already in the next 2 years. In that background, 2020 September, when UN meets in New York, we say we are 20 people, 30 people, 14 people, 50 people, individually committed to change this world. We will go to New York. I'll come there. We will sit in front of the United Nations. Beautiful atmosphere is there, under the trees. We will sit. Somebody will give coffee and tea and all that, don't worry. The world is so generous that way. I lived in the world without a penny in my pocket for 3 years. The people gave me as a human being. That humanity is still available everywhere. So can we challenge the so-called United Nations, meant for what? Failed in what? But hereafter, we will not allow you to fail. We are here to challenge your structure and come and join us in the World Parliament of People which we have created. We have instruments. Can we take up the challenge? 2020 September in New York City. I am ready to go into that. Let's try our best to take up new challenge.
Thank you very much, Dr. Menon, for these challenging words. And it's the reality. He gave 4 words. Word of reality, word of possibility,
word of dream. First was word of dream, and fourth was word of feasibility. And according to him, we can do everything. We can change the world if we have dream, if we have the power. And after 70 years, we think that we are also, still we are far behind. But we should come to, and we can request the United Nations Assembly. Very good. We are 20 peoples, we are related to WCPA and change the world. I mentioned that India is a massive democracy and the struggle for right survival take place where more than a third of a country lives under the poverty line and poorest and most marginal strive to live free from abuse and exploitation. If we work to on this line and associate some peoples, then we can do very nicely. We change the mind of Indians, we change the mind of the world. And if we all together, we can do anything. Thank you very much, not taking more time.
I forgot to tell one thing. Our friends from Bombay, they are doing a wonderful job. I am inspired.
I am also from Bombay.
Yeah. And they are questioning. We have a parliament in India, which consists of 35% criminal. Criminal. So we need to question our democracy and say, do we need a parliament in the future of India with criminals sitting there? No, we fight it. Thank you. That is equality.
Not just criminals, sir. Nowadays, celebrities, film stars, television actors are being inducted into politics because they will get lot of votes. So I come to know that many of the big stars are being, asked to stand for elections by all the political parties.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Menon, for so aptly presenting everything crisply also in the stipulated time, because the session is for 30 minutes and Dr. Martin had informed us in the beginning. So it would be nice if the presenter is presenting only for 15 minutes, in case it can be stretched to 20, and left for discussions and questions, which is going to be really taking us to the resolutions or the aspects that are being brought by the delegates also, because I myself had very important aspects to ask Dr. Martin. So may I invite Dr. Richard now to chair the next session, and our very dear President of the Delhi chapter and the Vice President of the Global, Mr. Amit Paul, to present his paper. Yeah, please.
So
Amit Paul is presenting, you will be chairing the session.
Chair the session.
Yes.
I think it's,
Because the person who was to...
I think he might have asked if he could present tomorrow.
Okay, okay. I didn't know about it. So now then the next is Guruji Acharya is presenting. So may I invite Acharya ji to chair the session, please? I just wrote a note to him. Both of them are stalwarts in the area. So probably Guruji Arun Kumar is presenting on role of spirituality in the development of the world parliament, and undoubtedly it is going to play a very important role, because spirituality only gives us the idea that we are all one. Otherwise, when we are into me as the body, we think everyone is different. So we start, into all. And Acharya ji is into also. So they will make a nice jugalbandi now. So over to Guruji.
Namaste. Hungry? Namaste. I think we should have energy every moment, right?
Yes.
Well, I will start with a small prayer or sloka from our Upanishad. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us be together, live together. Let us be nourished together. Let us be energized together. Let us be illuminated together. Let us live harmoniously. That's what the meaning of this sloka, which has been uttered probably, of course, the British, or European historians, they tell it is thousands of years, but somewhere we believe it is millions of years back. So this has been there, and that is what we are talking about today, as far as WCPA is concerned, as far as our world parliament is concerned, Earth Constitution is concerned. We are talking about basically this same concept. Where is the correlationship between spirituality and this concept? There is something called Pindanda and Brahmanda. Pindanda is the microcosm and Brahmanda is the macrocosm. And this creation is the macrocosm. Even our planet Earth is part of the macrocosm. Even governing it is also governing the macrocosm. So when you think of governing this planet, when you think of world parliament for it, you need to somewhere look at the Pindanda or the microcosm. Because whatever is happening in the world, that is also happening within us, according to spirituality, according to our scriptures. And whatever is happening within us is happening in the whole universe. So you cannot segregate these two. You cannot think of a better world without transforming our own selves. All the problems, whatever issues, whatever discriminations, whatever Swamiji was telling, like we should run this world like a family. The little tiny baby is given the utmost care and importance. And which is true. You look at your family, what you do, the weakest person gets the utmost care. So why not in this planet? Why not in each country first to start with, and gradually, taking it to the whole planet? There is something called, a word called interbeing. Now all of us are interbeings. Whatever is happening to you, it affects me. Whatever is happening to every particle in this universe affects. So you cannot think that you will be so happy and enjoy life when someone is suffering. And unfortunately, most of us, we don't understand it, and that is the reason why we are in such a state. So we need to do something with our individual systems, and that is where spirituality comes.
when Swami Vivekananda went to his Guru, Swami Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and asked him, Gurudev, when I am going to get Nirvikalpa Samadhi? So Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a very, very high level of spiritual achievement where you realize that you are part of the whole universe. You and the universe are not different. So Ramakrishna started laughing and crying also. He told Naren, his name was Naren at that time. And you can imagine, my Naren will think like that. My Naren will become so selfless. When thousands of walking, talking, living gods are walking on the road and suffering, how can you think of your own self like this? You need to work on, you need to serve everyone. So, I was actually traveling from New York airport to Newark airport, where I started. So, the driver was an African American, a young man, and we were just having a discussion. He was telling, imagine, I'm not going to do anything for myself. I'm going to do only things for others. I'm going to, every moment of mine should be spent on doing some work for others. And everyone on this planet Earth thinks like that and does like that. Then what will happen? Even if I'm not doing for myself, there are billion people, who are going to do for myself. Just imagine that state, if you can achieve it. And how can you achieve that? That is possible only when you transform yourself. Every human being transforms himself or herself. So spirituality is about transformation. Spirituality is about transforming yourself from 1.0 to 2.0 or 3.0 or much more. So that is where if you want everyone else to think good about other people, everyone else to do good to others, we need to look at spiritual growth of every human being. Every human being has 5 ages. There is something called chronological age. Whenever somebody asks you, how old are you? You say, I am 50 or I am 40 or I am 70 or 80. This is nothing but chronological age. The time space between the day you were born and today, how much time you spent on this planet Earth, that is known as your chronological age. But if you go to a hospital in Delhi and say you go to Fortis or Apollo or somewhere, and you tell them that I have forgotten my age, please try to find out. So you have to undergo a series of tests. They will test your heart, they will test your liver, they will test your stomach, your muscles, bones, joints, skin, and they will find out age for every particular organ. Now, feed all this data into formula, then they will find out your age. Suppose you are 50, chronologically, they might find you are around 70 or 80. And this is known as your biological age. And then, so unfortunately, most of us, if you see, at least 20 to 25 years older, biologically. Similarly, there is another age known as your psychological age. You might have seen people who are 80 or 85 and they are as matured as 20-25. And you also have seen people who are 20, in their 20s, they are as matured as 80 or 90. So psychological age. There is another age known as emotional age. How much mature are you emotionally? How old are you emotionally? And how do you come to? How do you find it out? When you are undergoing emotional disturbances, when you are undergoing emotional stress, how to react. When you're provoked to get angry, when you're provoked to get frustrated, when you're hurted badly, how to react? Are you getting affected by it and suffer? Or not? Or you remain cool, calm? So that decides how you are emotional. If you get affected badly, your emotional is lower. If you don't get affected by such provocations and situations, your emotional age is higher. Unfortunately, today you will find our emotional age is much lower. A lot of intolerance, a lot of sufferings, a lot of pains because of the environment, because of the people around us, and because of the behavior. So that is emotional age. There is another age known as spiritual age. How do you find out your spiritual age? Emotional suffering comes probably few hundred times a day. But there are some situations which comes probably 10 times or 20 times or 30 times in your entire life. Under such most difficult situations, how do you react? Somebody very dear to you passes away. You meet with an accident and you lose your leg. You get arrested for no mistake of yours. Somebody attacks you for no mistake of yours. You get divorced. So under such most difficult situations, how do you react? If you get affected by such situation and crash completely, then your spiritual age is lower. But if you are able to stay firm and face the situation boldly and live comfortably, of course it is quite human to get little pinched in the beginning, but if you can outgrow it much faster, then you are much stronger spiritually. Spirituality has something to do with your inner strength, not about religion. Religion is good, religion helps you to be spiritual. But spirituality is something to do with your own inner strength and inner being. So that's why management system, they have IQ, EQ, SQ. So we need to work on improving our IQ, EQ and SQ. That's very, very important. If you really want everyone to feel that every other person should be happy, you need to work on emotional quotient and spiritual quotient. That's very, very important. And that is where the spiritual sciences play a role. If we can help every human being to be more spiritual, I'm not talking about religiousness. Yes, it is fine. But unfortunately, religiousness nowadays divides people. So it's fine to be religious, but at the same time, you should cultivate your spirituality from within. And that helps you to expand yourself as a human being, expand yourself to be interbeing. If you look at the yogic science of chakras, we have 7 major chakras. There are, of course, thousands of chakras in our system, but there are 7 major chakras. So one is at the root of the spine known as Muladhara, and this area called Swadhisthana, the navel area Manipura, and Anahata, Vishuddhi, Ajna, and Sahasrara. Crown chakra, brow chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, navel chakra, sacral chakra, and root chakra, base chakra. Each chakra, according to yogic sciences, has some responsibilities. Your root chakra takes care of your motivation and survival instincts, and your Swadhisthana chakra takes care of your sensuality at the same time, the management abilities. And your Manipura chakra takes care of the lower emotions, like anger, greed, jealousy, aggressiveness. And your Anahata chakra takes care of higher emotions like love, compassion, joy, peace, tranquility. And throat chakra takes care of your expression and communication abilities. And your Ajna chakra takes care of willpower and extrasensory perceptions. And this is the chakra for spirituality. Now, these two chakras play major role in whatever practice you are facing. Your Manipura chakra and your Anahata chakra. Manipura chakra makes you more selfish. And your Anahata chakra expands you. It helps you to love others. It helps you to have compassion towards others. So, working on these two chakras will help quite a lot. So that's where yoga and the science of energy can help people. So my mission is basically working on individuals and transforming them, transforming their chakras, transforming their energy systems, transforming their emotional intelligence, transforming their spiritual intelligence. And once that happens, naturally, you will find world citizen. Because if you want to be a world citizen, you have to be spiritually mature, emotionally mature. I visited so many countries and I have met so many people everywhere. And the moment I talk about this concept of WCPA, everyone is so excited. But momentary. The next moment, they're caught up with their own things. See, we meet every year once, but what about the rest of this 365 minus 2 days? Swamiji was telling, let us do action. How can we do action unless there is fire activated within? So, both should go simultaneously. I request all the spiritual leaders who are part of this movement to think and work towards this. Spiritual transformation. It should be part of our growth as an organization, WCPA. So this is very essential. Of course, both have to go side by side because the policies, governance is very, very important. At the same time, do action, action, action. 2, 3, AAAG, AAAG. Because we need to do something like Amit Paldi was telling, next 1 year, we'll see a lot of changes, a lot of transformation in WCPA activities. We'll see many, many people coming to us, become part of our movement. Yes, that is possible only when you act. Only if you think it doesn't happen. Now he suptasya singhasya pravishyanti mukhem mriga. When a lion is lying down and opening the mouth, the deer is not going to come and enter his mouth. We need to work, we need to act. So we need to think in that direction, we need to work in that direction. So let us form in India and Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, America, and so many 100 countries. So each country there should be some action group. And Swamiji was telling, 1 year back we passed resolution that we are going to start Global Communication Center. And what happened? He gave a place, beautiful place, AC. But nothing is happening. The reason is, there is no funds. If every one of us contributes some small amounts, then the fund requirement is taken care. It's very important. And again, heart chakra has to be expanded. If heart chakra is like this, you will never feel like to do anything. You will never feel like to contribute anything. So let us work towards that. And finally, I would like to tell a small story with Pandora's box. I don't know how much of you have heard of this story. There was a time when all the people were just kids. They were playing. There was no older people. They were playing and there were plenty of trees, fruit trees. So anytime they were hungry, they were just plucking it, fruit and eating. And again going back to play. And one day, someone from heaven came with a box and gave this box to this boy, Pandora. And he told, keep safe, never open this box. So Pandora told yes, and he kept it very safe. But one day, one little girl came and told, my dear Pandora, I would like to live with you, because my house has some problems, so I would like to stay with you. He told, okay. And she started living with him. And he used to look at the box and used to ask Pandora, what is this box? He told, keep quiet, never ever ask about the box, never ever touch that box. So one day, out of curiosity, this girl opens that box when Pandora was not there, and a lot of insects, dark insects, they kept coming out and started biting. And they started biting everyone. And then what happened? All the sufferings, pains, diseases, old age, everything started coming. Suddenly they became too old. And Pandora came running to his house and saw the box is open. Immediately he sucked that box. Then shouted at this girl, how can you do this? Then there was a sweet voice from the box. Pandora, please open the box. So Pandora told, no, already we had enough, we don't want any more. And the voice was telling, okay, you had already so much, so why not one more, just give it a try. Maybe I'm sweeter. So then he opened the box, and there was a beautiful tiny insect. It came out and just kissed the cheek of Pandora, and suddenly all his pains, everything vanished. Then went to that girl, she also became better, and went to the whole world, and everyone became better. And that was hope. Asha. Hope. So, in spite of all the problems, in spite of all these sufferings, still we have hope. If we work in the right direction, collectively, with right action, nothing is impossible. So let us keep that hope, keep ourselves alive, and like Amitji told, let us see the next year is going to be year of action for us, year of transformation. That's what needed. So with this, I would like to conclude with few slokas from our scriptures again, which is again the basic principles of WCP. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag. So let everyone be happy. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya. Let everyone be free from any kind of diseases and sufferings. Let everyone see good things and things in the right place. Let no one suffer in this planet. Let us work towards this. Asato ma shaktamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amrita. Oh God, please guide us from untruth towards truth, darkness towards brilliance, light, and from mortality towards immortality. Okay? Thank you very much.
Because of the chair, but we have about 5 minutes more.
Yeah.
1 o'clock, 84, if you would like 5 question answers sessions,
Namaskar. We had a short but very enlightening talk by Guruji Arunji. The main focus of his talk was that without spirituality, we cannot hope to have a world parliament or world government. I agree totally with this concept, this condition. He also said very nicely that Spirituality is transformation to higher consciousness. It is expansion of mind. And here we should understand the basic difference between religion and spirituality. Religion has two imperfections. One is it is devoid of rationality. And secondly, it is more physico-sentimental. Devoid of rationality means it is guided by superstitions, faith. You believe it. If you do not believe, you will go to hell. If you believe, you will go to heaven. A fear complex is injected in the mind of those who are the followers of religion. And then physico-sentimental. They are sentimental about some physical object, some place, some monument, some statue, etc. Whereas spirituality is totally based on rationality. Therefore, it is a science of evolution and elevation of mind. And unless mind is expanded, unless it truly becomes spiritual, it cannot have empathy with every particle of the universe. If we want that the whole world, everybody should feel that whole world is our family, everybody is our kith and kin, then spirituality is must. That is the prerequisite. And therefore, having respect for all the religions, we should propagate the concepts, the, I can say, the practice of spirituality. This is the need of the hour. And I think that due to the lack of spirituality, our religions have moved towards dharma vyavasaya, commercial religion. It is more used for commercial purpose and less for making a human being a true human being. And ours should be a man-making mission. This man-making mission is must if we want that the humanity is taken as a singular entity. Human society is one and indivisible. We must never think to divide it. Everybody should be looked upon as the manifestation of supreme consciousness, supreme creator. And I think that if we move towards this goal of becoming spiritual and popularizing spirituality, our goal of having a world government will be realized as early as possible.
We have lunch in 7 minutes. And Dr. Vijaya has allowed me to make one more point that I wanted to make in my talk before lunch. So just 5 minutes. The question comes up, what about the United Nations? Right? Are we trying to replace the United Nations with the Earth Constitution? The Earth Constitution provides for integrating all the agencies of the United Nations into the Earth Federation government. So the World Health Organization, all these wonderful agencies will not be abandoned at all. They will be integrated into the government and empowered to really do their job. But right now they can't do their job because the United Nations is not a government. It is a treaty of sovereign nation states. And this is written right into the charter. The United Nations cannot interfere with the internal affairs of any nation. Right? And the United Nations, therefore, just becomes a debating society. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights that Swami Agnovich mentioned, a wonderful declaration, came out in 1948. The UN was founded in 1945. And the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, the UN says, remains as an ideal. It's not even international law. It's an ideal expressed by the United Nations. But Article 28 of the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights says that everybody on earth has the right to a world order in which all these rights are realized. There's the key. That's the lie. Because the world order founded in 1945 is a treaty of sovereign militarized nations. And the UN Charter is a militarized charter. It accepts that there will be war. And it says the only time a nation has a right to go to war is if there is aggression against it. It's a war system. It recognizes that nations will aggress against other nations. And the only time the Security Council can approve war under Articles 42 and 43 by whenever it thinks there's a threat to the world order, it can authorize attack by land, sea, or air, as it puts it. So how is international law enforced in the ultimate foundation of the UN system? By war. Think of that, right? How does the UN Security Council keep the peace? By going to war. It's a war system, and it cannot be anything else, because as long as you have sovereign nation states that recognize no effective enforceable law over themselves, you're going to have a war system. Nations, big and powerful nations, will feel free to do whatever they want. There's no law above them. And therefore, we're not against the United Nations. We're trying to get the UN system, which has a lot of good people in it, and the UN ideals. The ideals say we want a world without war. But the actual structure, the setup, embodied in the UN Charter, makes it impossible to actualize those ideals. The only way to actualize those ideals is to create real democratic government representing all the people of Earth and integrating the nations as part of the world parliament. Okay, so please reflect on that and keep that in mind. We don't want to abolish. We will integrate the UN and create real, effective democratic government for the people of Earth. Okay, let's go to lunch.
Swamiji has some picture to just wait.
Sorry friends, I don't want to stand between you and the lunch. But because I'll be leaving after lunch, and tonight I'm leaving for United States of Washington DC to testify before an International Commission on Religious Freedom on the 12th morning. So I have to be there on the 11th morning. I'll be taking the flight tonight, reaching there Delhi, Chicago, and then Washington DC. Tomorrow morning I should be there. So I just want to be excused for not being here for the whole 2-day session, number one. Number two, as everybody is now speaking in terms of action, I have a small suggestion to make. Let us actualize it. After the first session over, our friend Augustine Belliot walked up to us and talked about three murti. The three murtis sitting, one was YSR Murti with this registrar of this great university, and who has put all his energies to host us, take up the leadership of running the day-to-day office. Yes. And now she has all the time at her disposal, and she has all the talents, and she has all the compassion and the profound wisdom which is necessary for running this on a day-to-day basis. And third is Narasimha Murthy, our great leader from Bangalore in South. I think 3 Murthis coming Yes. So this is my one suggestion. The second suggestion is that let us promise ourselves that we will donate, we will contribute on a monthly basis a minimum amount for our movement. In India and abroad, Bangladesh, or wherever we are. You have got a bank account, you have got the ways to contribute funds, online contributions possible through this WCPA account, etc., Dharm Pratishthan account also. So minimum amount we should promise is 1,000 rupees a month. That's the minimum. Each one of us, if 50 are sitting here as delegates who have come all the way at their expense, their time, such valuable contribution each one of you is making. Let us not go back empty-handed and meet once again next year. Say we will contribute minimum of 1,000 rupees per month, minimum. And I'm a Swami, I don't have any property, any inch of property anywhere in the world. But through my trust, I will be contributing minimum of 10,000 rupees per month. Wow. Minimum, I'm saying I will try to do it even double or triple. So, but that is the minimum. And thirdly, let us promise what Dr. Glenn Martin said. Commit ourselves to some action, and that is to enlist every day minimum of 10 members who will join us. Minimum of 10. But I'm trying to say, even if that comes to 300 a month, you can reduce it to 200. Or you can further reduce it to 100. But let us not be less than 100 every month. So 100 new members, 100 new persons to join this movement, young people, students, professors, lawyers, jurists, whatever they are, in any walk of life, labor leaders, farmers leaders, women's organizations, all of them who are talking about equality and justice, etc. in the world, let us enlist them as our partners and 100 new partners every month. Each one of us, let us promise this. I think this is not beyond our capacity. Each one of you is endowed with all of your talents and great virtues. And if we can promise ourselves, commit ourselves, be accountable ourselves, nobody is going to make you accountable and punish you if you don't fulfill it. But it is a moral obligation we have, each one of us. If we really want to make this go, we really want to make this dream fulfilled. So it's not just about dreaming, but actualizing the dreaming, which is more important, the dream, which is more important. So with these words, I think the 3 concrete suggestions, the 3 Murthis to take up the leadership, and each one of us contributing minimum of 1,000 rupees or whatever is equivalent from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and all over the world, wherever we are situated. In terms of dollars, it can be much more because. So, yeah. So, and third one is enlisting 100, minimum of 100 new persons every month. So in this way, we will grow and soon become a real people's movement. Thank you very much.
Since Swamiji is leaving now, I just wanted to ask Indians, ek puchna tha. I am also an Indian. Why do we wake up only when an American comes? Yoga has been there for centuries. But only when an American took it and then propagated, we all woke up to do yoga.
3 Murthis are missing now.
And meditation with it is the same. US, UK, took it. Now this movement also. Why don't we, when it is in our own culture, non-violence and peace has been our basic culture, we still function that way.
Yes.
We never fight or argue or shout at people unless, there are few. I mean, the basic Indian. Let's wake up
Very.
and do on our own also certain things. Not for an American to come to us to jostle up to do something which is already in our.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we come back at 2. Right?
should also thank.
Yes, thank everyone. Thank, yes. But we all are part of each other. So instead of thanking even you all, the delegates, because without the participants it won't be. So each one and the divine force. Thank you very much.